So you've accepted your assignment. You're not really sure how it's going to go, but you've gotten there. Now the choice is, what are you going to do and how are you going to make the most of this assignment? Every assignment has its ups and downs. It really comes down to the traveler to decide, what do you want to do with not only this assignment, but every single assignment you go to going forward? We're going to talk about fun in every city on this week's edition of Travel Evolved. It's Travel Evolved. I'm Mark Holloway. Welcome to the episode, everyone. I'm excited about this episode. I always say that, but I really am. I'll tell you why, and then I'll do all my thanks and kudos as I always do. But I'm excited because there's more to this episode than you think. There really is. However, let me tell everyone that we are obviously, by the time this thing episodes, will be right smack in the middle of the Christmas and the New Year holiday. For those of you that celebrate Hanukkah, I don't know how that goes. I've got family members that do that. I can't remember how Hanukkah works. There's all kinds of... But hey, we're in the holiday season, and I hope everyone is having a great holiday. This has been a rough couple of years, let's be frank, especially for you guys in healthcare. I mean, it really has been. It's been lucrative. It's been hard. You've earned, in my opinion, every single penny that you've garnered. And people always like to talk about, travelers are making all kinds of money. Yep, they are. Sorry, I'm just adjusting the volume. Looks like I'm a little hot on this mic. Yeah, travelers are making a ton of money. And it's about time. I'm sorry that every healthcare professional in the country can't make a ton of money, but everybody can't. It is unfortunately limited because of the way hospitals work and function to those people that are willing to literally risk tomorrow's employment. And you guys know, I've said this before, that you have barely any guarantee as a traveler in this industry. No matter what your agency tries to tell you, you really don't. So those that are willing to take that risk, you guys have finally earned, I think, a huge comeuppance, if you will, a payback of what's been happening over the last 2 decades since I've been in this industry plus. So it's about time. However, like I've always said, it's not going to last. It hasn't lasted. Things are kind of, back down. But I said this when I was doing Travel Insiders. I said this 2 years ago, a little less than 2 years ago. I said, I never thought things would come back down to what they were, in 2019. And I still will hold true by that. I don't believe that they will. I think the wonderful thing that happened throughout a whole hell of a lot of terrible things that happened was that hospitals finally realized, I shouldn't say they realized it, but it became very apparent that they were not going to be able to staff without the help of travelers and also per diem, staff as well. I'll give everyone that too. Those that do per diem there, you guys, they're not much different, except for they don't go across the country. They tend to, if they get canceled, they're in their hometown. So I love my per diem, people, but you travelers are the ones that, I'm loyal to you guys because you guys are the ones that take all the risk in our healthcare staffing world. And I think you're the ones that should get the biggest benefit. So anyway, thank you guys as always. Listen, this will be our last episode, I believe. It should be. I think we're going to release this either on the day after Christmas or 2 days after Christmas, either the 26th or 27th, which would mean this is our final episode in 2021. And again, like 2020, good riddance. See you later. I think overall, it has been a wild year for you guys. It has been for many agencies, mine included, it's been a really great couple of years. But that's not real as well. And I think that, and again, I'm going to talk about this in this episode. I think talking a little bit more about how things are going to look and what I'm going to do here and what I really do, I'm going to invite you guys on to take a journey with me. I'll talk about that at the very end of this episode. But things are going to look really different, I think, going forward. They have been. And things changed, 21 months ago. And I think it is, regardless of why they changed, the long-term result is going to be that things are going to be, I think, really solid for travelers. They just really do. For those of you that are willing to take that risk. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for sharing this with your counterparts, your colleagues, your friends, the people that are asking, I need to get some information. And again, I've always said, I think we're part of your education process. We are certainly not your education process, except for just this cog, which is, in fact, the travel agency side. And like I've said before, I've been doing this for 2 years with a couple different shows, if you will, a couple different things I've done, and I still have yet to see anybody come close from my side of the business to even come near what we're going to talk about. And that's the last thing I want to say before I jump into Fun in Every City, this episode number 35. Man, I got some really great guests lined up. For those of you that are my guests, that are lined up, you guys know what I'm talking about. I've got some insane episodes coming. You thought the one I did on COVID was a little risky and a little bit dangerous to talk about. We're going to talk about things on Travel Evolved that literally nobody is willing to talk to. Not just an agency side of things, but things that you guys don't even want to talk about amongst yourselves. I think we need to get this stuff out there. We need to have a candid conversation about things that people aren't willing to talk about. I don't care if it makes you uncomfortable. I don't care if you're worried about saying something that's not, woke or politically correct or any baloney things that it is. Let's just get back to talking about real things and communicating in real ways. And that's what we're going to do here, and that's what I'm going to try to give to you guys. So thank you so much for the incredible increase in viewership, in subscriptions on both YouTube and through our different podcast platforms that we have. Again, like I said, I think last week, 2 weeks ago, it tells me that we're doing things right, that you guys want to hear and see these things. And I have never had any misconceptions that we are the end-all, be-it-all of your traveler evolvement, but we should be part of it. And I hope that we are that missing piece that you guys haven't been able to see or find. And what people are telling me directly when I talk to you on the phone, and you guys all know who you are, I talk to literally somebody at least once a week, oftentimes once a day if I can, and I certainly text a lot more. We are trying to give you that little piece of information that is going to help to change the entire industry. So let's get into it, man. I'm looking forward to this. So, like I said when I did the intro here, there is more to this episode, I think, than you really think about. There's more to this that we should really start openly talking about. Yeah, we're talking about having fun in the city. And again, I did an episode, I think one of the first, dozen episodes I did one that talked about, the road to the assignment. That's not what we're talking about here. I do think you should have fun getting to an assignment. I do think that it should be, not just getting in your car or whatever you get to an assignment and just driving mindlessly across the country. If you're lucky enough to be able to plan, to be able to not have to literally go from a Saturday ending a shift, an assignment, to Monday starting an orientation, if you've kind of listened to what we have to say and thought pretty heavily about planning your career as a year-round thing, you have a week or so off, which allows for that episode. I'm not going to go back into that one again. Today, what I want to really talk about is you're there. And yeah, like we said many times recently in a lot of episodes, a lot of you are choosing assignments based upon the location. So for those of you that are taking an assignment because this is where I want to go because I've got family, or specifically there was something I really wanted to do that is this destination, you guys get this. But for many of you and for a lot of you, and again, you guys all know the travelers I oftentimes love, a lot of you guys are chasing dollars, which I think is healthy and responsible right now. So you've chased those dollars. And who knows, right, where that assignment is going to end up taking you. If you're lucky, yeah, you've got high dollars and a really cool location with a lot of fun in that city. It seems like, again, based upon supply and demand, the things that we talk about on Travel Evolved, that more often than not, the higher paying and the dollars that you're chasing will oftentimes lead you to a facility that's, in a city that doesn't seem like it's so fun. Oh, I knew I was going to knock that whole thing off. Let's just get rid of that, shall we? it might not be that fun at all. So if you have that scenario going for you, and this is not going to stay up now because I've knocked it off and it's part of my really old recording equipment, so we'll just knock it down there. Hopefully I won't have to deal with it. If you are in a city that has that stigma, right? You chased an assignment because it was really where you wanted to go financially. And now here you are. You're in, oh gosh, I'm not going to name names on this episode. You're in the middle of nowhere. You're in a small town, or you're in a cold town, and it's, here it is, going to be January and February and March. And you're frustrated. You're like, boy, I know I'm going to make money, but let's say this money wasn't based upon overtime or additional hours. It was strictly a 36-hour a work week assignment, but it was lucrative and it made sense to you because of all the different reasons we talk about that only make sense to you and not to anybody else. So you chose this assignment, and here you are. Now what do I do? Because I am only maybe working 3 days out of 7 a week. Maybe that's for those of you that are on those 36-hour work weeks. This episode is for you because there's more to this than you think about. First and foremost, having fun where you are is going to eliminate that traveler burnout that we talked about. It's just a fact. You have a decision to make, and I'll repeat this repeatedly throughout this episode. Am I just going to sit around and do my work and go back and watch TV? Or maybe you're doing something still that's maybe not just watching TV. Maybe you're reading. Maybe you're taking getting more education. But still, you have a decision to make. Is that all I'm going to do because it's cold out? Because I'm in a small town and I'm not willing to venture out? I will tell you guys this. I believe this to my heart of hearts, and this is just again a guy outside of a traveler. So take this for what it's worth. I am not in your shoes. But to me, it would seem like if I'm going to travel for 5 years, 10 years, 3 years, I would want to be able to say when I was done, I got stuck in some small places, some places that I, didn't seem like I would be able to have any fun in them. And boy, I went out and you wouldn't believe the adventures and the fun that I actually had. Now, I can speak from a pretty intelligent position on this because some of you guys know this, but when I first got in this industry for the first couple of years, I traveled in the travel healthcare industry from an agency standpoint all over this country. I'll share this with you guys to hear, in a month or so, and I'm going to really, take you on my journey with me. But one of my main jobs was literally to get in a plane and fly over someplace new in the country and literally hold, face-to-face meetings with 20 people an hour in a hotel conference room and talk about the company I represented at the time and get into a traveler's head. It was a lot of nursing back then, but it really allowed me some face-to-face conversations, really get to know how travelers think back then and what made them tick. But I understood what it was like to go, oh, really? I've got to go to this town? And again, I won't name names. I might name some because in this episode, well, I'll tell you one. Here's a great example. There was 2 weeks in a row I had to go to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, fly back to Denver, and then literally 5 days later I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I remember this very vividly. I'd never been to either one of those cities. Oklahoma City was cool. It was a bigger city than I imagined, but I will tell you this, and I hope I'm not offending anybody from Oklahoma. I'm not trying to because there's a good end to the story. But I didn't want to go to Tulsa. It was February, and for those of you that aren't from Oklahoma, it is cold in Oklahoma in February. It is a little more humid than I was expecting, and it was windy. I've never been so cold in my life, and you guys know I grew up in Michigan, so I've never been this cold in my life. And I went to this, I'm like, I don't want to go to Tulsa. I've traveled alone a lot, so I was going to be in a hotel room for 3 or 4 days. Literally that's what happened. I would move into this hotel room, and I'd go down to the conference rooms and go back up to my room when it was over, and I'd spend all day down there. And I will tell you, I found this area, and those of you that have been to Tulsa, you know what I'm talking about. I can't remember what it was called, but I walked from my hotel over this, I think it was a river, to this area that had all these old bars, and I found a cigar bar, and I was really into cigars back then before I realized that I really shouldn't smoke those because they're very, very unhealthy for me. But I was in my 30s, and I thought it would be fun, and I really got into cigars for a while. Found this cigar bar. I want to say it was like something had the name Mark in it, like St. Mark's or who knows what it was, but had the greatest time in this place by myself with the staff that worked there, sitting up there. And it was just one of those experiences that then I found out the next day there was a whole bunch of wonderful restaurants. I'll get to that here in a minute. But there was a perfect example of me saying, I'm just going to go to my assignment that I had, my little 4-day assignment, and I'm just going to work in my hotel, and I'm just going to take a shuttle from the airport. This is back before the days of Uber, because I'm that old. And I'm just going to live in that hotel like I did it many times and not really get out. But I ventured out, and I was so glad I did, because there was a lot of fun in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So I recommend that town, by the way, for anybody that is interested in going to assignment there. It's a cool place. It really was. We had a guest on with Melanie Mossberg, my good friend. I'll reference back to her. She talked on an assignment, or on one of our episodes, about getting through a tough assignment. Now, Melanie was really talking a lot about the clinical aspects and how to do that, which I was so appreciative of that early episode that she did with me. But I will tell you that if you get out and you get out into some of these towns, you start forcing yourself to do things, it will help you get through an assignment if you're unlucky that it happens to be a tough one. And again, I've said this repeatedly on Travel Evolved, that we all go into an assignment thinking that this is going to be great. You listen to that manager, and of course you assume that what he or she is telling you is going to come to fruition. And we all know there are a lot of times, unfortunately more times than I think we'd like to know about, that what they're talking about isn't really accurate. Sorry, I got a boxer going nuts upstairs. So we all get fooled into taking an assignment that is, I guess, not as advertised. And I get it. You guys understand. A manager, his or her job is to convince a traveler to come to them. Yes, we'd like them to be completely honest, but let's be frank. If they were completely honest, more often than not, or a lot of times, you're not going to take the assignment. They're going to struggle with that. So they've learned to undersell the tough stuff that they have to deal with, and oversell the things that maybe aren't always as accurate as you like them to be. I hate to say that, but it's the truth. Their job, and put yourself in their shoes. We always try to do that here on Travel Evolved. It's not always just one way or the other. That manager has learned over years and years of trying to interview people that I've got to maybe not talk about all the floating. I've got to maybe not talk about how tough some of the personalities are on my unit. I've got to downplay that, or not even bring it up at all. That's difficult. So that's why they do it. They're not trying to purposely mislead you. I believe that in my heart of hearts. They're not trying to mislead you. They just want you there. They need you, and they're desperate. And a lot of them are going to say and eliminate talking openly about some things that might turn you off in the assignment. So, I wish it wasn't the case, but again, as I always say, that's why you make the big bucks, because you have to sometimes get surprised and go, ooh, this assignment isn't what I thought. So here I go. I'm going to venture out, and this could get me through what I would imagine is a tough assignment. So, there you go. Here's the bottom line. This is a decision that I'm asking a lot of you guys to make. Like I said earlier, if you're going to look back on your travel career and say, yep, I made a lot of money, I learned a lot clinically, but what can you going to be able to say about the overall experience when people will ask you, and they will, what was it like literally going to a different town every 13 weeks or every 26 weeks? Tell me about that part of it, because most people you're going to talk to outside of the medical field aren't really going to want to talk to you about the medical side of the things, of the field. They want to talk to you about your experience that you had. What are you going to do if you don't have anything to talk to them about? Well, I basically went back to my Airbnb or my hotel or my apartment, and I didn't do anything, especially, because I chased money, and I went to cold weather locations, or I went to small towns. I went where the money was, because the demand was high and the supply was low. So it meant the assignment sucked. So I didn't do anything. I think, if you guys are hearing me, I'm being kind of cynical on this, but if you hear me, I think that is a major mistake. I really will tell you. And use me as an example. You'd be surprised. You guys see those movies that's like, I'm going to say yes to everything, or today is going to be a yes day. And those movies, I guess I know that they're written and they're fictitious, but the moral of the story always on those is you have fun. You do things you didn't, normally want to do. I'll let you guys in a little secret. Okay, so next couple of days, I haven't been invited with my in-laws to go look at Christmas lights after Christmas. And it's by the carload, and they've paid money for my family and then their family. And I could easily go, I don't want to go. But my daughter's home from college. She's 20. My son's a senior in high school. You think he wants to go? You think a 17-year-old kid who's about to return 18 in a little while, next semester is going to want to go look at lights? Of course not. You know what? We're going to go, because you never know. We might make one of those family memories, whether it's a funny memory, and we got tons of those, or just one of those things like, I'm glad I did it. What's the alternative? To sit at home and watch hockey? And I mean, you could do that. But I'm going to make a conscious decision to say, yes, I'm going to go because is it my cup of tea? Nope. It'll make my wife happy. It'll make my family happy. And you know what? I might actually have fun. I might actually go out and do something rather than just sitting, inside on a Tuesday night and not doing anything. So again, just trying to point out some of the mindless things I want you guys to think about. Make the most out of the assignment that you have now. That's really the gist of this thing. You've got the assignment, you got there whatever way or whatever direction you were getting at, so now here I am. So how do I make the most out of this assignment? I'm about ready to tell you how to do some things. But this has to be a decision that you make. And not all of you have to follow my lead, and again, I get it. This is more of a motivational episode, I think, to try to convince you to do some things that are maybe outside of your comfort zone. I have to have people do it to me all the time, and I think we can all agree many times when we do something out of our comfort zone, we have a really good time. And that's really what today's episode is about. Don't just sit there. If you're listening to me right now and you're in the middle of nowhere, or you're in some place where it's snowing or it's cold out and you don't feel like getting out there, go do something. I'm going to tell you some things here in a second that I would like you to go try and do, and you might be amazingly surprised at the difference in the quality of your overall assignment if what you're not dealing with, maybe you love your facility. I hope you do. I hope the assignment was great. But if the town that you're dealing with in just doesn't feel like there's a lot there, I'm going to tell you here in a second how to have fun in every single city. All right, let's jump right into this. The first thing I want to talk about and say to you guys, we live in an amazingly wonderful, beautiful, completely dynamic country. I've been really lucky enough to be able to explore most of this or a lot of this country. And I will tell you that it's amazing how a place you don't necessarily think is going to have fun in it or be interesting can completely different than what you had in your mind. Whether it's the people and how wonderful they can be, the experiences you have, just the topography of the land that you're in. Every part of our country, hell, every part of our states oftentimes have a completely different feel to them. There's not a lot of states that are small enough that they literally look the same all over the place. I mean, I've lived a lot of places, and there is such a different feel in different parts of a state, let alone a city, gosh, you name it. So let's start off with that. We live in an amazingly beautiful country. We're lucky. The world itself is unbelievable. If you guys don't watch, a lot of those shows that we have such a great opportunity to watch right now in HD TV about the planet we live on, you're missing out, because there is amazing people all over the world, and certainly within our own country. Yes, I understand. I've said this before. It doesn't feel that amazing right now. I can't wait until this episode. People are going, what is he talking about? People aren't getting along that well right now, and maybe I say that too much because maybe it feels like I'm on social media all the time, so that could be a lot of it. But there are wonderful people in this country, wonderful people in our world, and go out and see some of this stuff. There are surprises and treasures literally in every city you go to. And that's what I want to jump into. There are ways to find these things out. I mean, first and foremost, you should be talking to the staff that you're working with. Ask them, especially if they're permanent. Hey, what should I go check out while I'm here? I know I'm trying to get some extra shifts in, you name it. I've got things going on, but what can I do? If you were to tell me 5 things that I should see or go do, I don't care if it's places to eat, places to go visit, things to do in your town, outside, an hour away, 5 things that you think I should do over the next 13 weeks. Rattle them off. Ask 5 people that. You're going to get a huge amount of similar or identical answers. Those are the ones you should jump on. If 5 people that live there say, you got to go do this, you kind of need to go do that, because you're going to miss out and wish that you would have gone there or gone and done that. It's a wonderful avenue that you guys should be pursuing. Where are the surprises and treasures? Every town has them. I mean, I don't want to sit here and name places and names, but every town has a weird or unique or fun or surprise or a treasure that you just didn't even know about. But your people at your hospital do, your staff members do, the people that live there, your patients might even know. So don't forget about those guys as well. We could be talking about local cuisine. Let's talk about that for a minute. Local cuisines, I put libations down here in my quick notes because nowadays there's a lot of really cool, I mentioned a cigar bar I went to in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There are places that are whiskey bars if you're into that. There are breweries if you're into that. There's wineries if you're into that. There's just speakeasy type places you can go to. I don't care if you're if you love sports, what's the best sports bar you can go to watch the game, whatever your game is, right? But cuisine really lends itself to a huge variety of stuff. We did episodes, and I can't remember if I've done the episode yet on being a foodie. I think I have. But cuisine itself in every different part of the country, obviously they all have their unique things of specialty that you got to check out. But within that city, within that town, there are places that you've got to go to. I don't care if it's the local drive-in or the local diner that's been there for 40 years. If everyone loves their meatloaf, go check it out. I was out in California this last summer, and my wife and I were having dinner up at a bar because it was jam-packed and we didn't have a reservation. We walked in thinking you have to have a reservation here. Okay, so we just sat at the bar. Met a couple next to us. One of our favorite restaurants that we go to pretty frequently, 3 or 4 times a summer. They said, we got to try the meatloaf there. I'm like, meatloaf? You're on the beach. You eat meatloaf in a restaurant? And he goes, oh, no, you got to try it. This is one of those things. He wasn't joking. I've never ordered meatloaf in a restaurant in my life. I ordered at this place because I got a recommendation from somebody. And it was unbelievable. I'm like, wow, who would have thought that ordering meatloaf in a restaurant that I looked at that 100 times, well, maybe not 100 times, a couple of dozen times, and never even considered it once. Got a recommendation. Whole different experience now that I've been there. I'll give another similar one. There's a place that I eat prime rib at frequently, and someone mentioned, you got to try the Cajun prime rib. I'm like, I'm not going to ruin a prime rib by having a Cajun. Again, I like my prime rib the way I like my prime rib. No, you got to try it this way. All right, I'll try it that way. Holy cow, unbelievable. Never had a Cajun prime rib in my lifetime, and I'm not sure I would recommend it everywhere. This particular location, I would do it. So these are the kinds of things that you find if you talk and ask people. And I'm not saying that food rules the world, but if you love that sort of thing, just the cuisine alone, just a restaurant itself that you have never tried, you will have a memory of that restaurant for the rest of your life if you have a great experience there. And I've got more experiences at restaurants than I can even remember. Every once in a while, I will remember something. I take a lot of pictures of restaurants and food because I do enjoy those memories. I'm usually with friends or with family, and to me, that's a whole game changer. It can be for you if you take advantage of it as a traveler. There's crazy fun you can have at a restaurant and a cuisine if you go out and try some things. But I would ask. That's one of those things. I just wouldn't just walk in. I would either look at some of the reviews. Don't trust Yelp. Yelp has paid reviews. Look and really see what people say, but I would ask some of the local people, where should I go to eat? Talking about that, there's festivals, there's special events. A lot of places, and I know it's seasonal, a lot of places do things in the summertime where there's a certain kind of event or festival because the weather's nice. But there are things that, while you're there that could be happening that you're unaware of. There could be some event that is, specific to that town or maybe an hour away that you can go and check out. Whether it is a cinema festival, there's something about, who knows what it could be. It doesn't really matter, but you got to ask and find out. And I'm talking about, within an hour, so to speak. Here's one that's free. It's free to go check out parks, do some hikes. I don't care if you're not in a mountainous or hilly type area of the country. Go for a walk in a park. Every time I've looked, most towns, most cities have a park to go to. You could literally go and sit on a bench and watch people play with their kids, watch people play with their dog, and have a hell of an hour just enjoying human interaction because maybe you don't know anybody in that town, but sit there and just watch somebody have fun. Watch a little kid play on a swing. Holy cow, man, it takes you back. Watch some young dad or mom struggle with their kid. I had a guy in the store today with 2 twin girls, and I looked at him, and he's like, I said, yeah, I don't envy you. In about 14 years, those 2 twin girls are going to be putting him through hell. And he was, shuffling them through the store on a busy holiday. Kind of wild. So, you can have a really enjoyable time just sitting there watching somebody playing with their dog at a park. You can meet the dog if you love dogs. You guys know I'm a dog guy. So go to a park. Get out of the house. Get out of your Airbnb. These are all things I'm just trying to get out and say. And I know this episode sounds like I'm just rattling it off, but I'm really not. I really want you guys to be able to say in 5 years, I traveled. I didn't just travel to hospitals and help different people in a certain community. I literally traveled and did some things for myself. And that's really, guys, what today's episode is about. A little bit more of your own mental head game. like I said early on, avoiding burnout, getting through a tough assignment. This stuff will help you. All right, so one of the things I found is pretty interesting. If you're lucky enough to live in a city that is big enough that has some public transportation, you really got to check this out, because here's a good example of how this happened to me. Whenever I go to, and I haven't gone in a long time, but I used to go to Bronco games here in Denver, it was always easier to take the train down, to the stadium, because it's just a madhouse down there, right? It's wonderful. You walk out, you get back on your train. Yeah, there's a little bit of line sometimes, but you don't have to deal with any parking or any traffic getting out of the stadium. So it was wonderful. I was with a couple of friends of mine who were from out of town, which is usually what I was doing, taking people out of town to go to the games. And we would be going up from, I live in South Denver, all the way up to the stadium. And every stop's like, wow, that's cool. We should come back and go do that. I remember one time a guy was like, there's 5 different stops. He's like, we got to come check that out. I'm like, we only have a weekend. So we had to pick and choose. But we did go back to some places that we saw on that public transportation route. I'm telling you, if you guys are able to get on a bus, if the town is big enough that does have a train or an L like Chicago, that kind of thing, where you can see some of the city for a relatively inexpensive, it's a great first thing to go do. Jump on a bus, find the route, get to know the town or the city if it's large enough. It'll allow you to be able to do that. If you do it early on, the first week you're there, or even before you start your assignment when you move in, that gives you a great game plan to say, all right, I've got 13 weeks. I saw 5 things I want to go check out while I was on that loop of the city or whatever I was doing. It's a really inexpensive way to check out your town quickly on your own without having to have anybody else kind of dictate what you want to do. And you can decide, that's for me, that's not for me, that's for me. And a lot of times you'll see a lot of these different stops have highlights in places where you can kind of like go, wow, that's kind of a cool place. I don't care if it's a bus stop or it's a train stop. It's just a really kind of quick, fast idea of how you can kind of get around a town and see some things without having to, ask. Fun in every city, guys. All right, like I said earlier, I think the biggest thing would be is to ask people in town about every single thing that there is to do there. I had a husband and wife travel team many, many years ago that took an assignment in the middle of the country. They were from Florida, but they were from northern Florida. They didn't live on a coast or on a beach, and so they took an assignment in rural America. I'll put it that way. Turned out they stayed at that assignment literally with me for 3 years, did consecutive assignments. The facility kept extending them. Finally, they said, Mark, we're going to live here. And they end up going permanently on with that facility, which was awesome because they finally found their place. And I will never forget talking to my friend at the time, and he said, in our wildest dreams, we never, ever thought this was going to be where we're going to hang our hats for the rest of our career. And that's what it ended up being. They ended up staying there until they both retired as an ER and ICU nurse. And they had no plan on being there. But they fell in love with the people of that town. They loved the facility. The things that they thought that they weren't going to experience, they absolutely experienced. It's another great example of how you just never know. And if you're sitting in your hotel room all day long and you're sitting in your Airbnb, you're never going to find out. When people ask you out, invite you out to go do things with some of the group that are part of your unit, maybe on your floor, if you're comfortable with that, go and do it. Accept those invitations. Say yes every once in a while. Even if you're like, I'm not sure I want to do this. I'm not good. I don't really know if I want to go to the comedy show. I'm not sure I want to go see that movie with those, whatever it is. Force yourself every once in a while to say, let's go do that. And I think for those of you that are, that do struggle with, maybe seeing folks outside of work, I think you're going to find it pretty liberating and pretty enjoyable that you're going to say, I did have fun in every single city. I made the most out of each and every one of my assignments. I didn't think I was going. I didn't know. I made memories along with making just a ton of money, right? Last thing I want to tell you about this one, I want to keep this one short and sweet but I do want to talk about some pretty cool stuff here at the end of this episode here. I want to talk to you guys about what I'm going to do here in 2022. But I think it's important that if you guys are at some place and you're just doing something cool, what I'd love to see on social media more is you guys posting this stuff. I mean, it's always just a bunch of talking and complaining or not always, but maybe kudos to a recruiter or a company. What I think would be awesome is if you found a gem, if you found a great, facility that has a cool couple of restaurants or an area of town like I found in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that was really unique and you want people to go there, post it. tell people you're not the last person to go to this particular location. We all know that hospitals that need travelers need travelers. They need them consistently, and typically they need them year round. Let other people know about these gems. If you found something cool, I know it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I'd love to see that more on social media. Hey, guys and gals, those of you that are going to be going to Tulsa, Oklahoma, if you like cigar bars, go to this place. You're going to find it was a really good time. Ask for these two people that took care of me. You're going to have a great time, and tell them I sent you. Well, I don't know what's wrong with that. And I think I'd love to see more of that in the travel healthcare world. It's always about finding apartments, and it's always about what company to work for, what assignment is great, what assignment sucks, what agency is great, what agency sucks. What about, hey, I found this really cool thing to do in this particular town. I had no idea. You have to go here, here, and here to go find it. It's a hike. Maybe I found a place that I always say, who knows? But the fact is, you just don't know. But post it. Tell your other travelers when you find something really cool. I think we'd all of you guys would evolve and grow. You'd take some assignments that struggle with their location, and you'd make them a little bit more desirable. If you had a good time there, help that manager out that was struggling to try to convince you to come there, and say, hey, there's more to this assignment than just this hospital and this the assignment part. There's some really cool things I found to do outside of work, and I want to share them with you guys. I think that would go a really, really long way to get your adventure going. All right, here's the last thing I kind of want to bring up in this episode, and I did, by the way, purposely pigeon-toe this episode in between the holidays because people got busy, and I wanted to get this one out there. But let's be frank, it's not the most important episode. I think it was more important than you guys thought. So I hope I expressed that, because I really do believe that for sure. But I am saving some of the really cool stuff for coming up. And I can say the next 10, 15 episodes that I saw on the schedule with some guests are going to be great. So if you guys are willing to, please share Travel Evolved with everybody you know, because I got some really great stuff coming up. In 2022, I'll tell you guys this. I am going to take you on this journey. I hope you guys will come along with me. I promised you before, I'm purposely holding off on this, but it's coming here right now in 2022. I want to take you on the journey of what it's like to form in your own head a new company, what it's like to take that company from a thought to actually bringing it to life. The things that are wonderful about that, the things that are difficult about that. I'm always going to change the names to protect the innocent, as they say, but I really want to take you guys on this journey because, like I've said before, for the last almost 2 years now, I've been documenting what I've been doing for myself. Every week, here's the great and wonderful things that have happened, here's the terrible things that have happened, and unlike everything else you're going to see on social media, I want to tell you guys everything. I want to explain to you guys it's not just about the great things that happen. I actually think the more important stuff is the things that weren't so great that happened. A lot of you guys have expressed interest in starting your own agency. Like I said before, you may or may not change your mind once you see what it's like, but creating an agency out of thin air, which, by the way, is what I've done, again, is it's challenging, and it's I don't know how to explain it. It's one of the coolest and most difficult things you can ever do. I've done it a number of times now. This one, I will tell you this, has been the most unique. And I want to bring you guys on this journey with me because it is a different concept. And I want to walk you guys through who I am. For those of you who don't know me, I want to walk you through how this whole thing came about and what I'm thinking and what I was trying to do when I created the company I'm creating. And I'm struggling because, like I've said before, this is not going to turn into an infomercial for my company. I can't, because I lose all credibility with what we're doing. But I can talk about what it's like from this side of the desk. And I think that it's going to be incredibly important for a lot of you because it brings us all closer together. I do every second I can. I do everything I can to try to put myself in your position. I think that's healthy. I think that allows me to have some good, strong emotional intelligence about what you guys are going through. And I think if I can convey what it's like on this side of the desk, it does in fact bridge that gap. Doesn't mean you're always going to agree with everything that we are doing, everything that I've done, whether it's the past, present, or future, but it bridges that gap and puts us all a little bit more on the same team as here's what we're doing. And I think that there's some good value to that. And I do believe that understanding what it's like on this side is just as important as me doing everything I can to try to understand what it's like from your side. Now, what I can't always do is put ourselves both in the side of the facility and the agents of the hospital. But I think we're going to come to some pretty good conclusions on that. But I really, really want to invite you guys to come along on this journey with me in 2022. We're going to start pretty quickly. I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be kind of cool. I'm just going to basically tell the story every week of what was going on, so you guys can take that ride with me and kind of see what that's like. So do come along. Do invite your friends. I think it's going to be really cool. I don't know anything. Again, we've always tried to do things differently at Travel Evolved. This is going to be another wrinkle. It's going to be completely different. I've never seen done before on social media at all, especially on YouTube or on a podcast. I've seen travelers do sort of a similar thing, which I think is really cool, to watch a traveler kind of go through the motions of taking an assignment. This is kind of like that, but on a much, much larger scale. And like I say, we put the work in to document that. So we're going to still continue with what we're doing and talk about a different type of a topic every single week. But every week we're also going to bring you up to speed of the story and kind of interfold those together to try to make it a little more entertaining and have some good content. I've always tried to say of what's important right now. And by the way, here's how the agency itself is going and what it was like this week on us. No holes barred at all, as I always say. Everything. You're going to see it all and hear it all. So, guys, as always, I appreciate it this week. Like I said, I know it's kind of a light one. I did that purposely because this is probably our lowest watched week, because all of you guys are busy. Thank goodness, seeing your friends, your family, those of you that have lucky enough to be able to get home for the holidays. Bless you. Bless your heart for being able to do that. For those you can't, bless you even more, because I think you guys are the ones that need it. So hopefully you're going to get a break soon to be able to go back and recharge your batteries. Have fun in every city. Do the best you can while you're there, especially if you're on an assignment during the holidays. Really, I hope you got out and did some things that were just for you. Guys, I appreciate it as always, and I will catch you next time on Travel Evolved.